Happy Wednesday, friends. It's hump day. How are y'all doing? Good week so far? It was dreary here in the DMV yesterday, so I wasn't really loving that. Plus it was like only I think like 67 degrees. Maybe it got up to 70, but I don't know. I just want it to be like nice and warm, but not too warm, but not go to fall straight to winter. Any event, all right, we're going to talk about Syracuse basketball today. I don't want you to think I'm ignoring football, and we'll obviously get more into the Clemson game later this week. But look, basketball's coming up before you know it. They got an exhibition game in Buffalo, which is kind of cool. I actually just got an email from the PR department with the program. They were asking media members if they were planning to be at the game, and I can't be there because I'll be with my son out of state. But um, it just like hit me. I was like, oh crap! Like Syracuse basketball is coming up pretty soon, and it's like we're knee deep in football. I mean, we're only a quarter of the way through the regular season, but we got Clemson coming up, and obviously everyone's. It's just the program's in a different place, regardless of whether they win 6 games or 10 games. It's just different. So it's like there's more. I'm just more into it. I'm more into football. I've always been more into basketball, just as a fan and frankly from a coverage standpoint over the last 10 years. But it's kind of shifted a little bit. But listen, Syracuse basketball is going to get going here, and like officially, I guess a little less than 2 months. And I saw something interesting. I think it was on Tuesday. Um, I'm sure some of you all follow John Rothstein on social media. His tweets are funny sometimes. Sometimes they're a little annoying and repetitive. But then again, probably people say I'm annoying and repetitive. So it's cool. But he knows this. I think he knows his stuff, and I rely on his stuff sometimes, source it, and he has scoops and all that. Anyway, but he had something about like 5 teams that he thought could overachieve, and frankly, I didn't even pay attention to the list other than Syracuse was on it. Maybe I should have. I don't know. And he talked about Syracuse a little bit, and he said things like he thinks Syracuse will be significantly better than it was a year ago, which I mean, on the face of it, isn't saying a ton because Syracuse was 14 and 19 last season, but he said he thought they could be sneaky good. And again, I'm a homer, but like trying to be somewhat objective here, like on paper, I think I might agree with him. Again, it's on paper, so to speak. They haven't played a game yet. This is all conjecture. And the team is well. I mean, It's happened the last couple of years with the transfer portal explosion. But this year it's like I can't remember how many guys were returnees last year because I just kind of put last year in the rearview mirror big time. But this year they have 13 scholarship players and 2 guys came back. And they had 6 transfers, 5 incoming freshmen, and then the 2 returnees. And the 2 returnees are, I think, were their 2 best players. Well, Donnie Freeman only played 14 games, but again, they're 2 all ACC caliber-ish players came back. I'm sure that wasn't cheap from an NIL standpoint, but Donnie Freeman, JJ Starling are back. Although Starling was in on social media, Instagram, like a couple of weeks ago, was in like he had like some type of soft cast or something on his right hand. I asked a spokesperson about it. The spokesperson said they couldn't comment because they're not in official practice time. Whatever. I mean, hopefully he'll be back. They got time. But yeah. I mean, again, it's really hard to know. And when you've got so many new faces, it's like, how is this team gonna gel? They've got 11 new people. But they've got Starling and Freeman, and they've got, I think, a really good point guard who was really good last year at a high major school, not a mid major. Nate George. They got a wing guy that can shoot it from deep. Shot 44% on brand last year at Oregon State. That's Nate Kings. They're incoming freshmen. Womack and Diawara, I don't think are going to play much, but Kyan Anthony, Luke Fennell could play some. Sadiq White certainly could play some. I think will play some. And then a couple more transfers, including, a lot has been made of the center position, and I get it for a couple reasons. Number one, Jesse Edwards a couple years ago was pretty darn good, but the center spot has left something to be desired in recent years. it is what it is. I mean, I'm not saying something you don't already know, but and then so you've got like the kind of his recency bias, so to speak. And then you throw in that there are three centers. Well, one Diawara is, he's an incoming freshman, definitely more of a longer term play. But the other two guys, I mean, a lot of fans were like griping because they based on like I think they're both 6'9", and so people would say, well, that's not a traditional center, a 6'11", 7'1", 7'2" center. I mean, Chuku a couple of years, he's 7'2". I'm totally blanking. Naheem McLeod. Oh my God. I'm getting old. I'm only 47, 48 almost. Naheem McLeod was what, 7'4"? So, but I don't know. Like, I don't really think that matters. Like William Kyle, who is he's a senior, played at UCLA, didn't play much last year in part because he was injured. But that dude is ultra athletic as far as I've seen in like social media posts. I mean, I haven't seen him in person, but and just interviews with Autry and other guys or just whatever, talking to some scouts, some analysts. Dude is ultra athletic. So he's not 7'1", but like he's 6'9" with a crazy wingspan. And, I think, I don't know if I've talked it on here or maybe in other places, but, Houston went to the national championship game and they had Florida beat in the title game, but I'm pretty sure their center, or I don't think they had anyone on their team above 6'9" or 6'10". So for me, it's less about like what your height is, when you're just like flat-footed. It's more about wingspan and agility and athleticism. And so the center spot definitely could be considered, I don't want to say a weakness, but even an area of concern. It's just an area to monitor among other areas. I think they got a loaded backcourt. They got some veteran guys. They got a blend of veteran guys and underclassmen. Like obviously I've been really talked about him a ton on Syracuse Central because the show just started last month. But like for some of the other places, I report Tyler Betsy. I used to cover him from a recruiting standpoint when he was at a prep school in Connecticut. Totally blanking which one it was. Shame on me. Again, I'm old. But anyway, he was recruited by Syracuse. He ended up going to Cincinnati. But that dude's, I mean, he was a top 40 or top 50 national prospect in the 2024 class. So, again, this is all on paper, and we'll see how it all comes together. And their schedule isn't like murderer's row, but they do have some tough neutral site games out in Vegas in particular. But, I guess to kind of wrap up here, I feel like Rothstein, I don't know. I probably was a bit of a homer on the roster last year, but I don't know. Like no disrespect to those guys, but and I'm not going to name specific guys because I don't like to like be mean, but there just wasn't a lot of athleticism. The point guard spot left a lot to be desired. The center spot, I mean, Eddie, like he had his moments and a lot of double-doubles, but I think in today's game, it's more about athleticism and running up and down the floor and agility and, just obviously 3-point shooting is big and all that. But, I'm not saying it's bad to have like a big bruiser down low, but in recent years, they've had really tall dudes down low and it hasn't been like a super strength of the team. So I don't know if the center spot will be a strength of the team this year, but maybe it won't be a weakness either. Maybe they'll help out on the boards and, we'll see. All right, but I think they could be sneaky good. I'm not saying they're going to be top 4 in the ACC. I hope they're, they win 20-ish games in the regular season. The key is I just don't want to see them have like get blown out against good teams or have bad losses against bad teams. You know what I'm saying? Like just play to your potential. And if that's, 21-10 in the regular season and a couple of solid wins and you sneak in the tournament and get one in the tournament, fine, great. But none of this 13-18 crap. I mean, that's garbage. I mean, I'm sorry. And I love Adrian Autry, and Alan Griffin and I went to school at the same time. I'm actually a year older than him, and he's a good dude. Like, I like all of them. And I think they were pigeonholed with NIL last year, and obviously NIL's better, and then you've got rev share. And Alex Klein wasn't there for the portal last offseason, 2 years ago in the offseason. So I think they did better in the portal. They got their 2 key guys back. They've got depth. It's going to be, how do they rebound? How's the defense? Are they turning the ball over like crazy? 3-point shooting, But again, on paper with this schedule and this roster, I'm not saying they're going to go 27-4 in the regular season, but I think they could be a solid team. I'll leave it at that. Okay, I'm going to grab a drink of water here. Oh, man. Okay. So this next story is Syracuse adjacent, but I really wanted to talk about it. So earlier this week, so Gerry McNamara, as you all know, he coaches at Siena, and last year was his first year there, and they had I think he won 14 games, they had a 10-game improvement. He's obviously going to do well recruiting, but with limitations. It is a mid-major school. They play in the MAC conference, but he landed a really nice pickup earlier this week. A guy by the name of Ryan Moesch. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. Moesch, Moesch, Moesch. He's a 4-star point guard in the 2026 class. He's inside the top 150 overall. He definitely was kind of flying under the radar, and then kind of, I think his stock kind of rose when he was playing, when he did well for the Middlesex Magic and the Under Armour Association League this spring and summer on the AAU circuits. But anyway, he had a handful of offers, but he committed to GMAC over Providence. Those were his 2 finalists. And I just think it's a cool story because I'm rooting for Ryan. I think he's underrated. He's from Central New York. He went to Chittenango High School. Chittenango is I think it's like 20 to 25 minutes from Syracuse. And he was, a local star, and then he transferred last season. He'll be a senior this year at the Cushing Academy, which is a good prep school program. And so, it would have been understandable, and I'm just looking through his offer sheet here. I got my notes. A lot of mid-majors. But Providence is a Big East Conference school. And I'm pretty sure he officially visited Providence recently. It's just a cool story. And I root for GMAC, he was there. I graduated in 2000. Obviously, he won the chip with Melo and everyone, and 3 years later. He seems like a good dude. I'm rooting for him at Siena. If he obviously does well there, and in a few years he could be at that could be a stepping stone. But he's recruiting well at Siena, and he's got some, if I'm not mistaken, multiple former Syracuse guys on his staff. Is it Anawaku, Blackwell? I hope I'm not getting that wrong. I feel like there's a couple guys. Anyway, it's just a cool pickup. It's a cool story. Ryan's really underrated. He was one of the stars of the Middlesex Magic and the UAA this spring and summer. They came in 3rd place in the playoffs, in the UAA playoffs in July. The 24/7 Sports composite. He's 134 overall, 13 a point guard, 4 in Masters. So he's a top 15 point guard. He's not super highly ranked nationally, and he's, as for what scouts are saying, he's not like the greatest athlete, but he's shifty, and he's got skill. He knows the game. He's got great court vision. He's got great energy. And he's evolved. And if you're a subscriber to Syracuse.com and the Post Standard, Donna DeToda, the Hall of Fame writer, just all around awesome. She had a story on Ryan a couple weeks ago. Obviously, this was before he committed to Siena. And it was a cool story, and I talked about him and how he's a late bloomer, and also about, even though he's a 4-star, he wasn't getting crazy high major offers, in part because, and I'm seeing this in covering Syracuse, the they're not, they still offer a decent amount of guys, but they're honing in on smaller groups of targets at the prep level because of the explosion of the transfer portal. And because it's, in most cases, it's shown that your money's better spent, so to speak, on transfers that have college experience and have, are older and, have more strength or whatever, and than prep recruits. That's not all over the board. And, Syracuse, as I've talked about, is going after a handful of guys in 2026. And my last segment today, I'm going to talk about they have 15 offers out in 2027. Not that they're going to have 15 guys in that class. But my point is that Ryan maybe was emblematic of that kind of shift in strategy where a lot of high major coaches are definitely focused more on the portal. But look, he's at Siena. It's a great fit for him. Siena is relatively local to where he's from, and maybe it'll be a stepping stone, and he could trade. I wrote about it on one of the other places I work for the other day, and some guys were saying, our fans were saying, oh, maybe he'll transfer to Syracuse after 2 years, or did and Syracuse did show interest in Ryan. I was told, and other analysts and reporters had this as well. They were in for him in Middlesex Magic on the AAU circuit, as well as Quinn Costello, who actually on Tuesday committed to Michigan. And they also checked him out at Cushing because Theo Adema, the 2027 four-star big man, he goes to Cushing, and he actually officially visited this past weekend. But so they showed interest. They didn't offer him a scholarship. I mean, from a point guard perspective, Syracuse is going after Duron Rippey. I mean, that's the main one that they're looking at. They're looking at some other guards as well, but from a point. Anyway, I'm happy for Ryan. I'm happy for GMAC. GMAC's always right here in my heart because that dude obviously meant so much to Syracuse. So I'll be following. I won't necessarily be covering Ryan at Siena, but I'll definitely be following him. It's a cool story, very cool story. So just briefly, because this is my first Syracuse basketball segment this week on Syracuse Central. So I was told. It came out actually. I think John Rothstein had it first. About how St. Joseph's, which is an Atlantic 10 school, they were supposed to be in the Players Era Festival out in Vegas that Syracuse is playing in, and they had to withdraw, or their participation was withdrawn. That was how the statement was done because of their contract agreement. In a nutshell, it's because they had a head coaching change. Their head coach, Billy Lange, he is going to he's moving on to the New York Knicks in a front office role. I think it's focused in player development. And so I think with that head coaching change, that meant that they're no longer in the Players Era Festival. And Syracuse wasn't going to play St. Joseph's in the Players Era Festival. They were going to play them like a couple days before, but out in Vegas, I think at the Thomas Mack Center on campus UNLV. So it wasn't part of the tournament, but I was told by a source that it was affiliated with the tournament, even though it wasn't directly in the tournament, and the tournament's organizers helped put it together. So the bottom line is, what I was told is that Syracuse will not be playing St. Joseph's in Vegas. They could play St. Joseph's somewhere else. And I know there were some other folks reporting on that as well, that it could be at the Dome or another neutral site, or they just might scrap the game and there'll be something else. But they won't be. I was told directly that the two will not play each other out in Vegas. So Syracuse will have 3 games in Vegas, right before Thanksgiving, against Houston, the national runner-up for a year ago, Kansas, and then a third team, TBD, which is on Wednesday, or then I believe Thursday. I think that Thursday is Thanksgiving. I hope I got that right. It's around Thanksgiving. So we'll see. I mean, do I care if Syracuse plays St. Joseph's? I mean, they're I don't remember what their record was last year, but they're a solid program. But with Syracuse playing Kansas, Houston at a neutral site, and then also they're playing Tennessee in the ACC SEC Challenge at the Dome. Those are 3 tough games, and they do have some other games at the Dome in the non-conference that I think are they should win, they will win, etc. So, and then they're playing Drexel in Philadelphia, and I think that's cool just because Philly is a good recruiting market for Syracuse. So in terms of St. Joseph, I mean, bringing them to the Dome doesn't really do much because, I don't know for sure what St. Joseph net ranking is going to be, but you bring them to the Dome, it's, obviously it won't be in the same quadrant if you played them at a neutral site. They're not going to, I assume, not play them on a true road game. So, I don't know. Maybe they go to Vegas and they play another team that's in the Players Era Festival that they, based on the brackets or whatever, that they wouldn't be playing anyway. That field, I think it's 16 teams or 18 teams. It's freaking loaded. And Syracuse is getting $1 million in NIL just for being out and participating in it. And I think the winning team gets another $1 million. So that's good for their NIL, for their coffers there. But I'll keep tabs on it. Again, I would assume probably the most realistic would be play another team out in Vegas or have St. Joseph come to the Dome, because I don't know this late, like where would they do it at a neutral site? I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep tabs on it. Syracuse's non-conference is 13 games this year, up from 11, and their ACC is down from 20 to 18 because ACC leaders wanted member schools to get more non-conference games in to hopefully boost their resumes. And I've said on record many times that's all well and good, but they got to win some of those games because scheduling them and losing them doesn't do anything. But their non-conference has some competitive games, and they've got a bunch of home games and then a bunch of neutral site games right now. So competitive. Tell me what you think. Drop me a line in the comment section. What do you think their record's going to be this year? Not just non-conference, but just overall. I don't know. I haven't done any like projections yet, but I'm thinking like 1912, 2011, 2110, 22-9, maybe somewhere in there. Gosh, if they don't win at least 19 games in the in the regular season, I'm going to cry. All right, I'm moving on. I'm out of this one. All right. So I'm going to be following. Sorry, I got to get some water. I'm going to obviously be keeping tabs on recruiting. Certainly when the transfer portal stuff happens in the off season or whatever, I'll be all over that. But, I follow prep recruiting pretty heavily and talk to a lot of people. So, so Syracuse is offered that I'm aware of, and it could be more than this. And obviously they're not going to ultimately like extensively pursue all these guys to the same degree, just like in 2026. But in 2027, as far as I can tell, they have got 15 offers out there. And these are juniors. And so one of the recent ones is this guy, Sharif Malago. And he's originally from West Africa, and he's a 4-star center. He plays at, let me get the notes here, St. Francis High School in California. He actually transferred there from the Cats Academy in Boston. Cats Academy is actually moving into the EYBL Scholastic, one of 20 teams for this season. I've talked about a bit. So he was one of the more recents, but I mentioned, and I'm just going to kind of go through it because I just want you to know who they are, and I'll keep tabs on them and give you a little bit of insights about some of these folks. Okay, so like I mentioned, Theo Adema is with the Cushing Academy. He's a 4-star center. He officially visited last weekend. Jaylon Lyons plays at the Clinton Grace Christian School in Clinton, Maryland, which is in Prince George's County, not far from me, in the DMV. He's a 4-star point guard. I'm told he will definitely, nothing's been scheduled that I'm aware of, but he will definitely be visiting Syracuse at some point. He is very close with Brendan Strong. Zion Green, 5-star power forward. He unofficially visited Syracuse not too long ago, and he actually recently transferred from Camden High School in New Jersey, and you all know Camden from Fran Brown, but he recently transferred to Mount Zion Prep in Lanham, Maryland, which is also part of the DMV. And then there's also a couple, so we've talked about Asher Elson, who's a 2026 4-star big man, and he plays in the Overtime Elite Professional League in Atlanta. But there's a couple of 2027 guys that are playing in it. They actually transferred in. So I just wanted to talk about them real quick. These 3 guys, actually everyone I'm talking about here has a Syracuse offer. So, but one is a 4-star wing / small forward, Clyde Walters, and he transferred to Overtime Elite from the Brewster Academy, which is Buddy Boeheim went there for his last year. Other Syracuse, CJ Fair, other guys have gone there. And then the other 2 guys transferred from the Lawrence Woodmere Academy on Long Island, which is shut down for this year, so they had to go somewhere. So they transferred to Overtime Elite. One is 4-star point guard Anderson Diaz, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name. Sorry, brother. He's a 4-star big man, Caleb Origo. Ourigou. Origo. He's like a top 75 national prospect. Diaz is like one of the best point guards in that class, so that's kind of cool. A couple of guys at the St. Thomas More School in Connecticut, which Syracuse has recruited other guys out of that school in the past. One is a 4-star shooting guard, Patrick Oti, which I believe he transferred there in the offseason from Overtime Elite. And then another one is DJ Hawkins, who I think is unranked, but is definitely kind of like looks to be getting on the national stage. He's definitely seen his stock elevate. A couple of guys in Wisconsin, which is somewhat random, although I guess maybe not, because Diawara, Sheffing Diawara, the freshman center, as well as Aaron Womack, both played in Wisconsin prior to going to Syracuse. So maybe there's like a Wisconsin pipeline. And Vaughn Carvalho, the 2026 target, who's officially visiting in a couple weeks, he plays at CI Bella Vista this year, but he's from Wisconsin. Anyway, the two guys from 2027 that hold offers. One is four-star power forward Donovan Davis from Freedom High School, and then four-star guard/wing Dooney Johnson. He plays at Milwaukee Juneau High School, and Davis is at Freedom High School. Okay, cool, interesting. One of the earlier offers, and when I say earlier, it was like in May. A lot of these guys got offered after the contact period for this class opened on June 15th. But this guy got his offer, I think, in May. He's a four-star center. His name is Isaiah Hill. He plays for Pike High School, which is in Indianapolis, and he's definitely a fast-rising big man. Another guy that's interesting that they offer, I have no concept of whether Syracuse will be heavily involved or have a shot here. He's a five-star power forward. His name is CJ Rosser, and he's one of the top 3 or 4 guys in this class. And he transferred for this year to the Southeastern Prep Academy in Orlando. I think it's known as Southeastern Prep. And I'm pretty sure Southeastern Prep plays on the grind, plays in the grind session, which is like a prep circuit similar to EYBL Scholastic, with some really good teams like Prolific Prep, where MJ Madison, a Syracuse target in 2026, plays. Prolific Prep plays in that. And also Mount Zion Prep is going to play in it this year. So we'll see about Rosser. Actually, this was one of their first offers in 2027. Zion Green was offered last summer, but this was one of the first one as well. Musa Kemasoko, who is a 5-star wing / probably a small forward at this point. He plays for Long Island Lutheran, which is the same school that Kyan Anthony went to, and that MJ Madison was at until he transferred to Prolific Prep. But Kemasoko was offered last December, so he was one of the earlier ones. So we'll see. He's definitely like a top 10, top 15 player overall. And one of the top centers in the class, 5 stars, was offered last fall when Syracuse offered a bunch of CI Bella Vista guys, mainly in the 2026 class. But this guy's at 2027. I've mentioned him. His name is Paul Osarui. And I don't know. Again, some of these guys, I'm not sure how heavy Syracuse is in with them. It's early. But these are the offers I know about. So did I get them all here? Yeah, I think I did. So it should be 15. So, I hope you're interested in that kind of stuff, because I was thinking about doing one on 2028 soon. And obviously keeping, heavy tabs on 2026. Syracuse has also offered at least 1 or 2 guys in 2029. They're freshmen in high school. So, that's super early. But I'll do one on 2028 as well. Let me know if you're interested in this stuff. I'm just feeling things out. But I feel like, football is priority number 1, at least right now, just because it's the season. And football recruiting and the transfer portal will be huge, obviously, when that goes on. I'll have rumors and intel there. But I think, it's something fun to do in terms of basketball, obviously beyond the team. Just look at prep recruiting and transfer portal stuff. So looks like it went a little longer this time. But, like I said, I love talking about recruiting. Drop me comments. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, how much I am no good at this whatsoever, or that you like what I'm doing, or just I love constructive feedback. I have a thick skin. Nothing you can say will hurt my feeling. Well, maybe that's probably not true. Just be constructive, all right? Just be constructive. I'm just trying to provide information and intel and have a good time. That's all it is for me. Anyway, I appreciate you listening in. This is Neil Adler with Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. I will talk to you again tomorrow, friends. Happy Wednesday.